Back in. So hi everyone and welcome to the Industry Forum for T1 2022. It's good to be back on campus. So this year's, or this trimester's Industry Forum theme is young entrepreneurship. And I think that will resonate throughout the MIT community. So Australia is now home to some of the most successful and entrepreneurial global startups. Technology startup companies and young entrepreneurial startups are growing on a rapid scale in Australia. The Australian tech startup and entrepreneurial sector has the potential to contribute over $100 billion or 4% of the country's GDP to the economy. So, as I've said, this trimester's forum will focus on young entrepreneurship. So this is definitely the place to help you and inspire you to the next generation of MIT thinkers. So, joining us for this trimester's Industry Forum is Erhan, Director and Partner at Greenheart Salwa, Shahbaz, Technology Leader and the Co-Founder of Digital Marketing Lead at Imbuity, a digital marketing, creative and strategy consultancy. Salwa is the Founder and Director of Slyvex, offering IT consultancy and business development services to the small and medium enterprises market, and Jacaranda Cafe, a multi-cuisine cafe. Sina Murma, as advertised, unfortunately, due to family commitments, can't be with us today, but Sam Singh, our very own MIT graduate, has kindly agreed to stick around from his own session to participate in the forum. Sam is a batch biz grad 2017 with MIT and has a diverse range of interests. So remember, Impact will attract GC plus points and the code will appear in the chat box shortly. Or rather, the the activity link will appear in the chat box shortly. Also remember, coming up after industry panel are the award announcements presented by the heads of school that include trophies and cash prizes for the winners. So remember, if you do have a question, please pop it in the chat and we'll put it to the panel. So let's, after all of that, let's make a start and we'll head over to Salwa. And the question or the statement I would pose to Salwa would be, IT and engineering are rapidly evolving fields. So what are the recent trends and developments in these fields? Salwa.
Hello, hi everybody. Thank you so much for having me. So in terms of IT, I think that the field is changing rapidly. A lot of the technologies that we used to use, let's say 5 or 10 years ago, are becoming obsolete. So it's kind of now more than ever, is kind of becoming very important to always keep in touch with all the new trends, all the new in terms of the programming languages, the tools, and you use for in IT sector, and that's my area of expertise. And also, I think one of the trends now is we say SaaS, which is software as a service, and I think that is what now most of the businesses are going to at this time. And with COVID, now that a lot of people are working, like trying to look for tools in order to collaborate and connect, I think that kind of creates a vacuum in the market for these kind of services.
McDad, have you got any thoughts on it?
On the IT market?
Yes.
I think it's going really well in the IT sector at the moment since COVID, especially because a lot of businesses went remote, and also the whole infrastructure in IT has improved. For example, a lot of companies have improved their functionalities like Zoom, even Skype. If you look at Skype, 3-4 years ago, things were very slow. So the whole systems are much better now, and there's so much demand basically in all areas in IT. So even companies that were not in technology before, they're looking at digital transformation and trying to digitize more of their processes and automate them.
Erhan, have you got a comment?
To be honest, IT is not really my field, even though it's very interesting.
What I'll pop in there is, can you talk to millennial employment? My favourite topic.
Millennium employment.
Millennial,
Could you please elaborate on that? Or
I think a millennial employment. So as opposed to 50 years ago in the workforce with employees, we're now looking in 2022 for, you know, the 20-year-olds, millennial. I think millennials 20 and plus, isn't it? 30? Is that the case?
Does
Shabazz
that mean mature age, millennium?
Yeah,
Well,
I'd say they
Nowadays,
sort of.
nowadays it's like 35. So no.
all right, all right, we'll bring it back. My dad is laughing, and so is Salwa. Okay, we'll bring it back to 20-year-olds, 20 to 30-year-old cohort. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll call it that age group. What are the challenges do you think are facing that cohort, that age cohort?
Look, as a young entrepreneur, so I'm still 29 years old, turning 30 a couple of weeks. When I look at people in my age category, there's still sort of people are still not sure about what to do in their life, which career paths to go ahead, or you know, sort of like they're doing jobs that they don't even like they're doing waking up in the morning and they're just going just for the money, for the financials. But my what I like from what I see, people are from 18 to up to 30, 35 are doing what they don't enjoy. They just, you know, just doing it just for day-to-day life sort of thing. And especially kids, when they leave out of high school, they get this 2 year sort of, they think they're on a holiday, 2 year break. They don't know what to do. They want to stay at home and, you know, feed off their parents. Um, like I think this is like a this is a global sort of question. Like people are really struggling to understand. Like, you know, kids or 20-year-olds, they don't know what to do in their life. That's the biggest thing that I think. Once they realize what they want to do and they enjoy what they do, it'll be perfect. Because if you don't enjoy what you do and you just do it for the money, then it's just a waste. You're not going to get anywhere. That's what I believe.
Do you think they lack passion?
Of course, yeah. Passion is like whatever you do, even if you just, you know, mowing your lawn, you got to put 110% in. You can't do something, you know, 80% or 50%. If you're going to do anything, like what I think is, you've got to put 110%. And when you look back, when you've done the lawn, you're going to sit back, have your coffee. You're going to be like, wow, the grass looks very nice. You know, you got to be proud of it.
Can you tell us about your particular journey, your individual? How did you start?
Okay, so how I started was after I left high school, I was about 16, 17. I started doing I started as an electrician apprentice. We started doing like big fit outs, clubs, RSL clubs, construction sites, hotels, and then from there I went to HVAC, so more mechanical. We done the UTS in Broadway. That's when the crane and stuff fell. There was an incident there, so we done that project as well. And then so I did it till about 4th year, and then I started my trade as a first, you know, as a journey. First year, I got into. I straight away started my business because I always wanted to work for myself. I'm a type of person. I like to just work on my own and build as I go. It's not because I don't like working as part of the team. I just want to know that I've done something and be proud of it. So I started my company straight away when I got my ticket, and I started doing granny flats, and I started doing renovations like for electrical. And afterwards, I started to sort of say, you know, like I'm a renewable energy sort of person, technology as well. So I said I'll get into solar, and I started doing solar installations in 2017, and I enjoyed it. I went all around the country. I went to Melbourne, I went to Canberra, Sydney, Brisbane. So I enjoyed doing installation. But even though it was hard in summer, we used to get, you know, burnt and all these sort of things. But it was sort of nice, especially when the customers came back after 3-4 months saying, hey, I don't have a bill anymore. I was paying $600. Now I don't pay anything. And, the happiness from the results, I got happy. So I started.
When you were starting your business, right, did you have people around you or associate or friends or family saying, no, that's a silly idea, or no, that won't work, or, people saying, no, you can't do that?
Yeah, because look, it was something that I wasn't experienced, and I haven't sort of, even though I'd done it, I worked for a company during my apprenticeship. It was only for 6 months. I had a little bit of skills, but it wasn't sort of a level where, I can go out on my own and do it. So my parents, my wife, they were sort of like, hey, just, are you sure what you're doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. So at the time, I didn't have any money to start up. And I was like, how am I going to start? And I was stressing. And my mom, she came and she's like, hey, she gave me her car keys. And she's like, here, sell the car and go do what you want. And I'm like, are you sure, Mom? And she's like, yeah, go. She goes, if you believe you're going to do it, you do it. I believe in you. So I sold the car. I got the money, and I called up a course. They were in Adelaide. I done my course there, 1-week course. And they were kind enough. They gave me 7 days free accommodation at Adelaide. And then when I got back to Sydney, I already had a contract lined up. And I straight away started working. But what I struggled in was, at the time, people weren't teaching, like, they didn't want to sort of teach the skills of the trade. It's like, it's a very competitive sort of industry. There wasn't much sort of installers back then. So they were being a bit greedy. The other people, like, other installers, they wouldn't sort of train you up, and, so I had to learn everything myself. In my just about eight months in the time that I started, I had an injury at work. I fell off the roof, double-story house. I was trying to put the harness on. I fell, and I was in hospital. I broke all my back, and I had a lot of. It was a big trauma, and that set me back pretty badly because I lost, like, pretty much everything on the business. I couldn't work. I was like in a wheelchair for 6 months, and then I just was sitting at home. And I'm like, I can't work anymore. I can't get up on the roof because I've got PTSD. I said, if I can't work, but I can at least get someone to work for me and manage this. So after 6 months to 8 months, I gave it another shot. I made another company, which is Greenheart Solar, and I started off with what contractor. I lined up a contract. I've started getting a team, and I started building, and it was, it got very successful where the company was growing so fast. I was even shocked. I'm like, how even my wife was like, how did this happen? And the key success of this is I done it because, one, I didn't give up. Two, I liked what I've done, even though I had these injuries and there was a lot of things in my way, but I overcome it from my passion, and I believe in myself. So,
and now you're 29, right?
I'm 29, yeah.
Wow. The passion is clearly there. The motivation is clearly there. And I think we'd probably, I know, Shahbaz, I'm looking at you and your face, and Salwa, I'm looking at your face too, and smiling and nodding, saying, I think we're 100% behind you on your journey. It is clearly, and I'd love to meet your mum one day to say thank you for giving him the car.
Yeah, I paid her back, that's for sure.
Probably 100 times over.
Yeah.
Shahbaz, I'll bring you into the frame. How about your motivation? Because you're co-founder, aren't you?
Yeah, I guess firstly, thanks for everyone, your attendance and the organisers for putting this together. I think it's a great initiative that we have here. So my motivation, I guess, was centered around giving back to the community. So I sort of, if I quickly just mention my path, I guess, in terms of where I got to, is I started working in marketing in the education sphere. And then I sort of leveraged that, and with my friends, going back to your initial question about technology, seeing that it was a booming industry, I transitioned towards SaaS, or software as a service, in the education sphere. And it sort of touches upon that point that you mentioned about generations as well. In that time, I sort of got to work with people that were quite young, people that were quite old, both sides of the spectrum. And I can definitely say there are generational gaps between people. I might come back to that, I guess, later. After that, sort of, I moved into Lenovo, and I managed the data center side for marketing across Australia and New Zealand. But in the side of that, or on the side hustle, I was working with my close friends that I knew for the better part of a decade. So I'm only 20. I'm 27. So I've probably known these guys for most of my life. We did a lot of community work together, and then we came to the conclusion that we could actually put our resources together. So all of us, having gone into the corporate world in different spheres, in strategy, in marketing, in design, etc., we're able to leverage those to bring to help community organizations foremost, and then we branched out into corporate clients as well. I think the initial question around technology, I think, is technology at the end of the day is a catalyst. More recently, because of the pandemic, whether you look at the stock prices of tech companies or whatever, it's very easy to see that it's a booming industry. It's definitely somewhere that I would highly recommend working in, at least for a part of your career, because it is a high octane, high performance culture that you will find there. And I find that having managed people that were 50 years old, even at a younger age, and having currently in the business, I guess, working with people that are just turning 20, that they've just literally graduated, and they're sort of deciding on whether they want to maintain the university degrees or whether they want to fulfill their passion of design. You see those conversations. And I think with millennials, going back to that initial question as well, that there are pros and cons. Undoubtedly, they're more distracted. I think that's sort of like beyond dispute. But I think there are particular pros. They are much faster at learning. They're more adaptive. They are more divergent in their thinking as well. I think technology has broken that natural distribution and actually increased the variance of people. So when I speak to people from a younger generation, even though the generational gap is now like 5 years or less than, or like 10 years or less, I find that the variance in their understanding, in what they've been exposed to, the maturity is significantly more than, say, in my generation, where the variance would be more clustered together. So
did you have people saying, like I posed the question to Erhan, did you have the knockers? Did you have people say, well, that's a silly idea, no, you can't? And I'm going to throw it over to you, Salwa, as well, because I'm interested to know whether or not, along your journey as well, and I'll let Shahbaz answer first, whether you did have those people. And the reason why I'm asking it is this, because we have a lot of MIT students that when they come and see me on campus, or whether it's Zoom, whenever I meet them, in every conversation they will have the comment being made, my friends told me this, my friends say that you can't do this, you can't do this, or family saying you can't do this, ... And there's a lot of it. And my response to them is, you can do it. You can do it. And Shahbaz, did you have people in your life saying, yeah?
I think the first person is the person in the mirror. Undoubtedly, you have a lot of self-doubt. And that's largely, I think, fueled by the fact that we see a lot of success on our news feeds, and we wonder to ourselves whether we're good enough or whether we would be able to make it ourselves. I think beyond yourself, you do have, well, I'll just speak personally, I guess. So in my context, coming from a background where my parents migrated based off skilled employment to Australia, and then the sort of framework was very specific: doctor, lawyer, engineer, something like that. Like that's sort of the outlook for all the kids. And in that world, it's very risk adverse. And obviously entrepreneurship is completely based off risk. And I guess the idea there was there's a clash there. And so the conventional way that you go to a good university, you get your marks, you get a good job, you get a graduate position, you move up the corporate world, was sort of the path that was laid in front of me. And I took that path obviously because I thought that it made a lot of sense, and I had invested a lot into it at that point in time. But what happens is, I think as a trend, more broadly speaking, the casualization of the workforce, the fact that people are working remote, the fact that people are doing multiple gigs, they're wearing multiple hats, that means that inevitably one of those side gigs, if you have enough passion for it, if it's successful enough, will become the actual breadwinning part of your life. And I think that if you're able to do that, so the way I did it was you manage your full-time load at least 40 hours a week. And then on top of that, on your weekends, on your nights, early mornings, you're chipping away until you have enough momentum to mitigate for the risk of you transitioning from your role into that role that you can fully dedicate yourself to. So that's the way I would do it. I think like other people have taken potentially different paths to the same solution, but I don't think there's a one solution for everyone, I guess.
Shahbaz, can I ask you, and I normally say this in previous trimesters, one word that best describes you? And I know that's not a question, that was a prepared question and that's being thrown at you. But I'm actually interested, and Erhan, I've got one word that would best describe you, but I'd be interested in too. But what one word, Shahbaz, would best...
If I can use a hyphen, I'd say data-driven.
What's that?
If I could use a hyphen, I'd use the word data-driven.
Okay, data-driven, yeah, okay. All right, Erhan, one word that best describes you.
I was just thinking, never give up.
Yep. Salwa, we bring you into the frame. One word that best describes you.
I think I'm very resilient.
Resilient. Yes, I hear that a lot around conversations today. So, Salwa, we come back to that question around people saying the negative influences in your life, that if there were any, in fact, and you know, and people saying to you, no, you can't, no, you can't, no, you can't.
I totally connect with Erhan's story. Like, I think my journey to entrepreneurship was kind of very questionable. The reason being, when I started my journey, I was actually going through very unfortunate events in my life. I found myself at a women's shelter, and I was given temporary residence for 12 weeks. So for me, it was like, yeah, of course, in that situation, everyone is going to question what you are going to do. And I had to figure something out in those 12 weeks. So for me, it was a matter of, can I establish myself? Can I find myself a job in this Australian market in these 12 weeks? So it was more like, yeah, why don't I do something I'm good at? And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to register an ABN and see where I go from there. So because of the way I registered my business and I started working, I kind of feel like I definitely had a lot of self-doubts. And definitely every single person I met at that time was around me at that time had some sort of comment like, you know, are you sure? You have very limited time. Are you sure you can turn this over? And yeah, sure enough, I did. And so what I would tell everyone is that, like, especially students, I was a master's student with a full-time degree when I started. So definitely everyone is gonna judge, or everyone is gonna comment. But it's really a matter of, you know, like knowing. It's kind of a calculated risk, right? And it's a lot of discipline, I think. And if you have the courage, if you have the discipline, and if you have the knowledge, and even if you don't have the knowledge, and if you have the will to learn, I think you can do it. And a lot of sometimes I really believe in the fact that you are the average of the 5 people you mingle with. So I kind of think that whenever you have doubts or people doubting you, probably maybe your circle is not made up for this kind of journey. And I think that is the most important thing here. Of course, everyone is gonna, you know, a lot of people are gonna have doubts, but it's just most important part is, you know, being confident, having the courage, and meeting people who have that kind of mindset and who will encourage you.
Commonality.
Yes, definitely. Like, I registered myself in every free business event in Sydney, and I went everywhere just to have that mindset. And yeah, it was very helpful. And it was, I think it was what has given me the idea and driven me.
You know, my 92-year-old mother would be very proud of you. Very, very proud of you. So what would be the biggest challenge, do you think, if a student was sitting here right now listening to this, or a graduate, because we do have alumni in the audience, and they're thinking of starting up their own business. They've got a business idea. Where do they go from that? They believe, they're passionate about an idea that they have. And this is a collective conversation, so everyone else is welcome to make comment. And remember, for those watching, you can pop questions in the chat box and we'll address them. So if a student is sitting there right now watching this and go, hey, I've got this brilliant idea, but I don't know what to do, what would your suggestion be to them? What would your piece of advice be to them?
If I may, I have had this conversation with a lot of students and a lot of my friends. The first thing I would say that a lot of ideas I see that people kind of spend too much time to trying to find that one unique idea, that one idea that will change the world, that one idea that would, that has to be unique. And I can't say this enough, like I kind of feel like start somewhere. If you start small, like start with anything. And instead of, like, for example, like I would say McDonald's is just a cafe, right? And there are $1 billion worth of business, right? So, and like I say, it's just that what I would say that like start with anything, even if it's small, just start, right? And as long as there is a market, as long as you're adding value and there is a market for it, it will grow into a business and it will grow into something. But probably the first step is there just to start, yeah, that would be my advice.
Do you think people aim too high?
It's not, there's nothing wrong in aiming too high as long as you take the first step towards it.
Take the plunge.
Yeah, so in my area of service, like I work with a lot of startups. I work with like SMEs and a lot of Australian businesses, and I have seen ideas that are, I have a client who is a palm reader and she has established a business. I have a client who is a dog walker, and these ideas are brilliant as long as there is a market for it, as long as the people need these services. That's brilliant, and that's their journey to entrepreneurship. And once you start one business, you can always start a second, and it can always improve it. You can always grow it. So I think it's just the main thing is just start, even with something small.
Would you agree that someone, a CEO came in here one day from an external business and they said to students, it's never been easier to start your own business, never been easier. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. I started it as a student. I definitely think it's very easy. And once you start your first business, the second one is even easier.
Look, and we've got proof right now sitting in front of us, Erhan. Erhan's proof of that too. Shahbaz, I know you're smiling. I know you're dying to make comments.
No, I'm just always smiling. Sorry, I should have mentioned that at the beginning. It's just something with me. I guess just to piggyback off that, there's a very important idea of the MVP. There's a book called The Lean Startup. Highly recommend it to anyone that's thinking of starting up a business. It's because since we've started our own business, we've actually helped start up other businesses. A lot of the time a client will come in, they will have an idea, and then it's just a whiteboard session and the rest of it, and it goes from there. And it's actually bear a lot of fruit, because having that process, it's a lot of it is process orientated. So making sure that you ideate, you actually pressure test the idea. But as was mentioned just prior, you need to have a minimal viable product, so the MVP. And the idea there is that the enemy of good is perfect. People are always trying to perfect things before they get it out. Whether you want to start a YouTube channel, whether you want to do anything, people get so fixated on the nitty gritty, they end up not doing anything. So instead of producing a YouTube channel every week, they don't produce anything because they're still editing the first video. So I think the idea here is that through production, you actually learn. And the idea of a minimal viable product is that if it fails, you learn fast. You don't invest so much time and so much money and capital into something only for it to fail down the track and then for you to have a costly lesson in that. So that's probably the only thing I'd sort of add to it, that you do want to get started, and you do want to ensure that you have a minimal viable product that you can put to the market to actually test whether the market takes that up or not.
Erhan, I'll bring you in. And Sam, if you're there, if you are listening, please join the conversation. Sam, Singh, Erhan, your comments?
Oops, sorry. My comment would be, starting up a business is like having a new child, like a baby. Okay, you got to look after it. You got to feed it. You got to change its nappy. So you got to put a lot of time. You got to educate it, discipline it, and it's not easy. You know, it's stressful. You're waking up, you know, like a baby wakes up in the middle of the night. You know, 3 o'clock. Yeah, because my experience, you know, like my daughter, like it's not easy. It's the same as a business. Like you can be up 3, 4 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning doing things. Um, and some people think having a business is they're gonna make money straight away, and that's
I
where
was
they
actually
get.
going to say that. I was actually going to say the mindset in a lot of people is saying that you'll make $1 million in the first month.
No, it's not that simple. It is simple. Like it's not that hard. It's if you focus on it, you can. But it's not as simple as, you know. It's like it's not going to come to you in a silver platter. It's not gonna come to you like that unless you go to it. Like put hard work and effort. Um, there's like a there was a saying, every reaction has an action, like a force. Okay, it's it's instinctively, like if you put effort, if you put time, it's bound to happen. And even if it doesn't, and you keep trying, you're failing, you keep trying, you're failing, there'll be a point where it's like the universe says, hey, you know, this guy's really struggling, let's help him out a little bit. You know, it's like everything turns, and from good it goes to bad, from bad it goes to good. But it's just about climbing that hill and coming down. You know, coming down is easy, but climbing up is the hardest bit. And
Sorry, go on.
every top of the mountain has the bottom of every top of the mountain has the next mountain. The mountain, you still got to go to the bottom to reach the top. So just because you think you're on the top, and doesn't mean you're going to go down. You're going to go down. You're going to go up, and that's just the way it is. Until, you know, it's about you. It's about, you know, how long can you take it, and how long? Because someone said it. Life is about the gentleman was doing the
Sam?
first, Sam, I think it was, that said that you know, life is a struggle. It's not meant to be easy, but it's about getting used to high pain tolerance. How much pain you can take? How much pain tolerance do you have? So it's still things happen, but our pain tolerance just improves, and we get used to it, and then we can manage through it. That's what I think.
Do you think MIT students that are watching right now could be successful and start their own business and get where you have got?
Of course. I mean, you know, just them being on this platform and watching is already, they're already in that road. Like, you know, like there's a lot of people here that are talking about their sort of their successes and all these things, and you know, it's like it's like this. If it's like a tree, and they're just grabbing those apples, you know, they're just getting fueled by all these things, and if they take it on board, they can do the same, even better. It's like that. It's If they put the effort in, it's gonna come to them, no matter what happens. So it's all up to.
Yeah, go on. I was just going to talk about your other interests. And is that Museaid? Is it Sydney Museaid?
Missy out. So it's a business chamber. Okay. So we've got like the old guys and the young guys, the old bull and the young bull sort of thing. I'm looking after the young bulls. So
Yeah.
all under 30s,
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, you know, tradesmen, could be whatever industry, you know, IT guys. So we sort of get together, and we do events like seminars. We bring new people in, and
Would
we make.
MIT students be eligible to join that network?
Yeah, of course they can. You know, it's sort of you know, we don't charge anything, like, you know, for events or anything. It's free. Anyone can come and join, um, and you know, they can meet new people, and maybe, you know, they can make new friends, and also possibly, you know, have business partners they start up a small business together. So they definitely can come on board. I don't know how. Should I leave it my email address or something?
Maybe pop it in the chat box. Can you do that, or we can do
Yeah.
that for you?
I can write it on the message on
Yeah.
the group chat.
No problem.
So I'll do that, and whoever wants to get in contact about the business chamber, they can feel free to contact me by email,
Yep.
and then they can come up to our next event, pop up,
And
and
there's your foot in the door. MIT students, there's your foot in the door already.
simple.
There's your offer. Shahbaz, how important, considering IT and digital, how important is a student's digital footprint, do you think?
Extremely. So as we edge closer to the metaverse and everything has a digital duplicate or twin, as some people call it, your online presence is arguably more important than your real existence. Especially in the case where if you're looking for a job, your employer is most definitely going to search you, look at your social media, etc. So I think it's very important to be conscious of what you publicize. You can obviously change your settings so that people can view particular things and not others. But I think at the end of the day, you want to see yourself as a cyborg. I know this sounds a bit excessive, but the idea here is that inevitably everyone's connected by their fingertips to another world. And I think that if you don't manage the perceptions of yourself on there, if you don't use that to your advantage, it will sort of, yeah. I think it's an opportunity as much as it is like a threat or a challenge. You can use that to network with people that previously would be inaccessible. You can listen to things, you can watch things that would actually benefit you along your trajectory as well.
Salwa, what would you be, I'll bring you into the conversation, and mindful that we've only got 5 minutes left before the winners are announced for T1 Impact by the respective heads of school, and I'll hand them over in about 5 minutes, and the GC Plus activity link has been put in the chat, as has Erhan's email address. So if you want to get in touch with Erhan, please do. It is in the chat. So what would you look for in a prospective candidate? If someone's coming to your business, and whatever that may be, and someone is coming to you and they've applied for a job, what would you be ideally looking for in that candidate?
I think, so I have two types of businesses, like the IT business and I have a cafe. So the common enough, like for both businesses, of course, the thing that really makes me feel that this is the right person for the job is the willingness to learn, right? So because I kind of think that it's very, in my businesses, I always try to hire people that I would want them to grow with me. So when I find someone with that, trait, that they're willing to learn, they're asking questions, it kind of makes me confident that these are kind of like candidates that would grow with the business, and that I kind of spend time in training, because I think in business, a lot of businesses I worked with before, having employees, there is a cost of training. So once you find the candidates who are willing to learn, I don't look for the perfect candidate. I look for someone who is willing to learn. And that is how I know that this person is going to give their best to the company.
Erhan, your comment on that. What would you look for in a prospective candidate for your business?
I'll see, first of all, if he or she turns up on time. And I'll actually say not just on time, but at least if I was doing an interview, are they 10-15 minutes before the interview, and I'll sit them down and then I'll ask them like questions, and I'll see if they enjoy what they're doing, and obviously what they've done in the past and all that. But the most thing that I'll try to look into and see is how much do they want to get this job, like how hard, like what are they willing to sacrifice, how hard they're willing to work to get the position. I'll give you an example. My first job, when I went to an interview, I told the boss, I said, look, I'll work for you guys, and like I really want to get this job, you guys don't even need to pay me like 2 weeks. Put me on a trial, and if you guys are happy, you guys can hire me. So, and the guy said, yeah, okay. He said, that's a good offer, and I started working for 2 weeks, and at an RSL club, we're doing renovations, and I was just, yeah, I started off $250 a week as a first year apprentice. So I was working, and I didn't think about the money. I got the position, and the other partner found out that I was working for free, so I ended up getting the job plus my 2 weeks pay advance, like in one pay, and the happiness that I got was like I can't forget that day, because I was very happy. So the guy that I hire needs to show commitment, and I need to see the belief that he can do it.
Shahbaz?
Yep, I guess just to add to that, so our team now, we've grown it to about 15 people, and the way that we do it is through internship batches and screening processes. So it's a little bit more structured. Say you have 20 applicants, you have to obviously screen them through interviews. We also do an assessment center, so that just positions a person in actual business context, questions, case studies, that will actually get them to see. Again, we're not looking for technical skills per se, unless it's a technical field like web development or something like that. But you're looking for what classically like the trivium, so like their rhetoric, their logic, their reasoning skills. And I think advice to everyone would be that your soft skills, the way you carry yourself, etc., is arguably more important than your technical skills. Technical skills can be learned. Soft skills are much harder to develop. And I guess the idea here is that from an employer's perspective, recruitment is only the first part of the journey. It's actually the retention of that person. So you want to make sure that that person is aligned with the values of your business, that they actually see where it's going. And you want to, as an employer, be able to provide a clear path where they can see themselves being with you for a series of years. As was mentioned, I guess there is an initial investment from the employer's perspective initially to get you up to speed with all the systems, the logins, the softwares, etc., as well as training. And so they only sort of see a return, quote unquote, on investment once you actually stick around with them and actually produce the goods. So it's in both parties' best interest to enter the relationship with both eyes open and ensure that they're making the right decision.
Now it's 4:15, or 4:14 rather, so I'm going to be handing over just in about a minute's time to the respective heads of school for the most, I think, the most watched part of Impact program, which is when the awards are announced for both schools from the program, and the trophies and the cash amounts actually will be awarded. Well, the trophies will be, the winners will be announced. But one last question, of the same question for each of you. We have MIT students watching right now, and a lot of them may be facing a brick wall. Maybe facing a brick wall when it comes to industry. They're finishing off their courses, they're completing their courses. Many are in their first trimester, they've just arrived at MIT. Many will be in the middle, and some will be at the tail end and heading towards industry. And they see a brick wall. It doesn't really matter whether it's first, second or third, but they're facing a brick wall. For those who are facing that brick wall, what would you be saying to them right now? What would your piece of advice? We've been through 2 years of hard times with pandemic. We're coming out of it. We're looking, the world's looking a little bit different, and everyone is, in a state that, there's various crossroads. So what would your piece of advice, the last piece of advice that you'd give an MIT student right now, facing graduation, facing completion, or even just starting off, and they see the course ahead, and it's a long road. What would your piece of advice be? We'll start with Salwa.
My piece of advice would be, especially for students, like the best time to start is now. And I would say that, like, I have, from my experience, I have, waited a long time to do what I wanted to do or start this business until I had no choice. So I kind of feel like don't postpone your plans. The best time to start anything is now. Even if you're a second year student or third year student, don't wait like, oh, I'll do this after graduation. You can start now, and you can start your learning process. And by the time you graduate, you will have something that you're proud of. So that would be my start. Don't wait for tomorrow, start today.
Wonderful. Erhan?
What I suggest to the MIT students is, if there is a brick wall or there's an obstacle, you gotta first of all, before saying to yourself, hey, how do I, before maybe you're gonna say, for example, I'm gonna give up, or I can't go through this, or you're gonna start getting all these negative vibes. I recommend the students to first of all to just picture themselves 10 years, what they want to do and what they want to be. And then if that goal, if the picture is bigger than that brick wall, then they shouldn't have an issue. If they get stuck anywhere part of their journey, they can just picture themselves in the 10 years what they want to be, and then visualize it, and then look at that wall. That wall wouldn't look as big as what they would have saw before they visualized it. So always follow your dreams and your goals and believe in it, and don't stop even if someone tells you you're not good at it. And get rid of negative people around you. Get rid of negative energy. Always stick with people that are positive, and should be good after.
Thanks. Shahbaz, last comment?
Yep, sure. So I think the piece of advice that I'd give to everyone would be to get a mentor. A mentor is 1,000 pieces of advice. A mentor is someone that's been on that journey that you're seeking to traverse, and they've been there, they've done that. Whether that was a brick wall, whether it was a fence, whatever gets in your way, a mentor can actually help you navigate. And I think it just increases the gradient of your learning curve. If the person has already been there, done that, they sort of know the tricks of the trade. The common pitfalls that you may fall into, they've probably already circumvented. So I think it's very important to have a mentor. And I guess if it's for business, then you want to make sure that person has a business themselves.
Wonderful pieces of advice. Salwa, Erhan, Shahbaz, Sam in the background, thank you very, very much for today. Really inspiring, really inspiring. And I know that what you've provided today has been, very well received by students, and I certainly will share that feedback with you all. So thank you once again. Really enjoyed your company for the past 45 minutes. Normally it's an hour, but we've cut it back. We've added a few things into the program for the first time. So thank you very much for attending. Thank you. And what my job now is to hand over to, and I know the participation list is increasing,